Hey there, it's Teresa here, and welcome to another episode of Conversations from My Couch. Hi, I'm Teresa Yankin. I'm a leadership coach and consultant, and you can find me here every Wednesday having a conversation from my couch about all things leadership. So, last week we talked about communication and the three pillars that you should have when you're crafting any kind of communication to your team, especially if you're trying to engage your team in your leadership vision. So, when you're picking up what they're laying down. In other words, they understand your vision because it was communicated effectively. They have confidence to move forward, and they don't need to ask you permission for every single little thing. And that leads me to this week's topic, which is execution. Now, Bill Belichick says when we can control our performance and our execution, that like what we can control is our performance and our execution, and that's what we're going to focus on. So today, let's focus on what leaders need for their team to execute with confidence and with success. Number one, momentum. In other words, it's getting your team moving. So, but it's not about all the busy work, it's about getting the right work done and having your team members all moving in the right direction. Another way that you'll hear this a lot is that you've got everybody working at the top of their license. So, what can you do to keep and build momentum with your team? Number one, it's like celebrating small victories with them. Number two, giving public recognition in the right settings. And number three, challenging your team when they are most receptive, right? You want them to grow, not just stagnate. Number two, you need to have some structure. So having processes and frameworks in place helps to provide your team guide rails to work within. So think about the Eisenhower principle, and I've talked about this before. Does your team know when they can act alone or when you need to be informed or involved in something? So this is why I love the agile process. It really is the process itself is comprised of a bunch of predefined actions that teams engage in, and they're very strategic and they're designed to have pointed goals for teams to perform at different stages. So, some of my most successful projects are when I incorporated that agile process, which is generally an IT process or an IT framework, into the business processes. It's very easy to take those and then morph them. If you know that, I'm a certified Scrum Master. I understand what goes there, why, and the logic behind it, the strategy behind it, and to think that we need to start to innovate over different places in our teams. So, the one thing I do want to tell you though is that form follows function, and that means that whatever you do to create structure for your team, it needs to fit in your organizational culture, and it also needs to fit in your team's culture. Super important if you want them to engage. The third thing that you need to for execution is that you've got to have feedback, right? Any successful communication, any successful relationship, you have to have a feedback loop, right? You can't have messages just going either falling on deaf ears, not being understood, because you'll never get the results that you want. And one way that you can mitigate that risk and you can make course corrections when your team is identified that is when you have a good feedback loop. So one word of caution that I do give my clients many times is number one, don't single out a person in the group setting. That's the best way to break trust. And that is foundational to every relationship. You have to have trust with every single person on your team if you want them to work together and have trust together. It's a safe place for them to work. Number two, you need to know your team's ideal criticism to praise ratio. And yes, that is a thing. It's studied, it's evidence based. There is a great ratio, or there is a ratio, and I can show you how to figure that out for your team. And number three, you need to watch your language and your tone in the team setting. So what I'm saying is that it's more critical than ever today in the digital world. You need to watch your digital body language. And I've talked about this before as well. So the three things that we need to execute are momentum, structure, and feedback. Now, if you're struggling with your teams to execute, or maybe you're the bottleneck, I encourage you to book a call with me with the link that's in my profile. And you will come away with one thing once we talk. You'll come away with one thing that you can do to better communications across your team and getting your teams aligned to your vision so that you can execute with excellence with them. Now, If you want to make changes for you and your team that result in a win-win for all, I'd encourage you to learn more about the DISC and how it can help you and your team to work together more cohesively and efficiently to execute on your vision, make it a reality, aka a success, right? Please reach out to me, book a call. Next week, I will be here again having another conversation from my couch talking about all things leadership. You can find me on all social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and here always on LinkedIn. Hey, you guys have a great week. Happy hump day, and I will catch you guys on the flip side next week, right here, having another conversation from my couch. Peace. And